Good afternoon. Welcome to Recovering Perfectionist Mama live stream. Welcome, Salvan. Today we're talking about 3 signs you're over-explaining and don't even realize it. Let me give you 3 signs that you're over-explaining, and most people don't even realize they're doing this. 1, you rehearse conversations in your head. If you are a person who is prone to potential anxiety, worrying about being misunderstood, worrying about saying the wrong thing, or you're about ready to have a difficult conversation, which is another reason you could be rehearsing the conversation to make sure that it sounds smooth in your head and that you're prepared. Because especially if you're dealing with some sort of anxiety or just worry, then that can actually make things easier to actually rehearse things. And it can ultimately make you feel a little bit more comfortable rather than feeling like you're going to go off the cuff or you're going to say something that you don't need to say, or the person may not be interested in what you have to say. That's a whole big ball of wax that can be really difficult to deal with. And so you're doing that because you ultimately want to get it right. You want to have a conversation that they will understand, that they will follow, that they will actually take part in, rather than actually have a scenario where you potentially offend them and lose them within the first minute or so of your conversation. And so because you're trying to get it right, you're trying to make sure that you don't offend them, you're trying to make sure that they're going to join the conversation, want to talk to you. Point 2 is you add extra details that no one asked for, right? So maybe you think that this is potentially going to be a confrontation or an argument at some point. And so you've prepared for that. You've prepared for that, going over all of your points that you want to talk about, meaning I'm not mad at you. I really don't want to like this to end our friendship. I don't want this to upset you or make you angry or make you feel like I'm attacking you, because that is clearly not my goal. And so, but you go more in depth in it because you want to actually like essentially have something that you're able to manage and to talk about with them, right? And so it can be, and you may even be pre-defending yourself. You may be saying, I know that you think that I'm wrong in this. I know you don't really want to be here, but I just think it's important that we need to actually sit down and have this conversation. And just know that, I'm not against you. I'm not upset with you. I don't have any motives to harm you or hurt you. And this conversation would stay between us. I just want to let you know that. This isn't me jumping on you. This isn't me attacking you. I'm not going to call you names. I'm not going to become defensive. I want to hear what you actually have to say. But I also want to be able to tell you kind of where I'm coming from too. And I'm coming from a place where this isn't a huge deal, but I think that if we can hash it out and be able to have the conversation that we both need to have, and get everything off of our chest and then just kind of start over. And if that's something that you're open to and you're willing to, I know that I myself just want to kind of clear the air, and be able to move past this quickly and effectively, because you've been my friend for X many years, and that's something that's been important to me, and that's why I've been stressing this. That's why I've been rehearsing this. I've been trying to think how I could actually let you know like where my heart is and what my plans are with our relationship and our friendship. And I don't want to lose someone like you. And I think that you should know that. And then you add the extra details about, I've really been having trouble sleeping. I actually, have just been really stressed. Like I thought maybe at some point that you might not have liked me anymore, or like you hated me or something. I don't know. I guess, I overthink a lot, and just the sleeping issues have been really difficult for me. And it's just extremely hard to like put this all into words. And then, and then like my cat's been sick and my dog too. And I just, I'm really kind of uncomfortable right now, but I'm just going to keep pushing through. And then you just keep like kind of the whole word barrage, because you're like, oh my goodness, like what is going, okay. What do I say next? You're like, they're paying attention now. Like how much longer will they pay attention? Um, and then you feel anxious if you don't explain. So there's certain things that they say to you and you're like, oh my goodness, I think I need to explain this. And okay, so I need to go into another explanation about XYZ that you just asked about. And it almost becomes a scenario where you are trying to anticipate the problem that the other person is going to have. And ultimately, some of us can anticipate, some of us can't always anticipate what the person is going to say, what they're going to do. But it can be extremely difficult and nerve-wracking to try to anticipate every single thing and try to be cool and calm and not just kind of lose your footing and lose your ground. Um, and then silence can feel unsafe because silence feels like there's this gap growing between the two of you. And if you're a person who's anxious by nature, you may sense that silence is kind of like a death nail, that it is literally like they're sitting there judging you and wanting you to say something. So you try to fill in this space. And maybe you learned that when you grew up, that while you were growing up, that oftentimes silence can divide people more than actual words can. So then you take it upon yourself to try to continue to over explain because you think if you over explain, it's better than under explaining. But ultimately, a lot of us learn in that scenario and other scenarios similar to it that ultimately we don't owe anyone an explanation, right? Unless we want to give an explanation. We're free to give an explanation if we want to, but ultimately it's kind of like the Fifth Amendment, right? You have the right to remain silent if that's what you want to do. But if you want to explain it, you want to potentially, dig yourself in a little bit of a hole just to try to get some common ground, that's up to you, and it's up to you what you want to explain, how you want to go through it, because people are different in communications. There's many communication styles. You can be the strong silent type. You can be the person who like word vomits everywhere. I mean, you can be the person who wants people, but ultimately I think that you also have to say to them in that scenario, look, I may be over explaining, but I'm over explaining because I think that you need to know where I'm coming from. And I want you to see my heart and I want you to see how important this relationship is to me. And I hope that it's as important to you. I'm not trying to overwhelm you with facts. I'm not trying to overwhelm you with just conversation. Like I've actually thought through a lot of this. And now that I'm nervous, like I think that, maybe I'm doing too much. I don't know. I mean, is there something you want to know? Is there something that, we can actually talk about that you have questions on? Because I don't want to be the only one leading this conversation. And I would love it if you would take part in the conversation because, that's the give and take. I want to know what your angle is, what your side is. And I'm willing to listen to that. I'm willing to listen to it and not get offended, not get upset, not put any pressure on you per se. I want to know kind of where we stand and what's going on. And so ultimately, there are very specific characteristics to people who oftentimes feel the need to over-explain. And that generally comes from people who are self-conscious in some way, who feel like they stand to lose a lot at this current situation. And so they want to give it their best shot to be able to salvage it. It oftentimes are people who are people pleasers by nature, who have been interrogated or questioned in family systems. And oftentimes their answers, they didn't feel like were good enough because whoever was interrogating them was not satisfied by their answers, maybe even accused them of lying or making things up or any number of things. And so they were self-conscious and they wanted to be sure that they had every single objection covered before they went on, right? And so they felt the need that they had to prove themselves to people, that they had to prove they were honest, that they had to prove that what they were saying was genuine. Because for a lot of their life, they weren't seen as being truthful. They weren't seen as being genuine. They were being judged. They were being essentially evaluated, almost like you would evaluate someone at school, right? And so very self-conscious with their words. And that also caused them to feel the need that other people were wanting them to just hurry up and get it over with. Hurry up and get it over with. Let's get it done. Why are you saying that? Why did you say that? You're too sensitive. You're overreacting. You're saying too much. You're not really saying anything that I really don't already know. Like, why are you talking so fast? Are you nervous? Are you anxious? Like are you not telling the truth? What's going on with you? And they feel the need to give them everything that they have, like kind of throw it at a wall and hope some of it sticks, right? And so if you have that kind of catch-22 where you feel anxious if you don't explain, but then you also feel over anxious if you're over explaining, that's a really tough spot to be in. But ultimately, people who over explain because they have been misunderstood repeatedly for whatever reason. Maybe the person wasn't fully invested in the conversation. Maybe the person didn't want to have a conversation. Maybe the person had already checked out. But over explaining comes from a place where you didn't feel safe to fully communicate, and where you feel like other people won't fully understand what you're trying to say. So you're wanting to give them the whole picture. But here's the cost to you. The cost to you is, again, that insecurity there that keeps growing because you feel like people don't understand you. They don't fully know who you are. That could be tough. And then the other aspect of it is you feel like you're being judged. And part of you still holds on to the idea that people still look at you and wonder if you're being truthful, if you're being authentic. And that can be really difficult to handle and manage, because you're pouring your heart out to someone and they're still looking at you with judgmental eyes. Like, I'm not sure that I can trust this person. And so then again, you feel like you're under the knife, so to speak. And then the other thing is, it is a lot of insecurity. It is a lot of shame. It is a lot of feeling like you have to prove yourself, which again, can also cause insecurity, instability, just sadness almost, and you're putting a lot of pressure on yourself to do these things from people who may or may not appreciate them, so you got to kind of take stock of that. Over explaining isn't clarity. It's actually self-protection. You're trying to protect yourself from things, maybe losing friendships, maybe family disagreements. But ultimately, it doesn't bring clarity. It puts a heavy cost on you because you are trying to explain and trying to carry the whole boat, which could be extremely difficult. And guess what? Then you add the other layer of it. There are some people that are they're bent on not fully understanding you because they don't want to. They don't feel like it fits them. They don't feel like it serves them. So trying to give you a little bit of peace of mind, trying to give you a little bit of comfort, they could care less, which is unfortunate, especially if they're people that you've depended on, people that you know, people that you love. It can be extremely difficult to deal with that. And it can be hard too, as you imagine. So you put all this pressure on yourself to try to essentially influence or to show people where you're coming from, and they may not even care, which is really sad. I think if somebody takes the time to actually arrange a meeting and sit down and talk to someone about their feelings and try to hash things out, that person should take it seriously, because it's a very vulnerable place to be. And the other thing you think about is that's a place where hearts could easily get broken, right? Because you're literally putting your heart out on a silver platter, and someone can choose to accept it or they can choose to deny it. No thanks, I'm not interested. I mean, I don't know. This was actually all kind of a waste of time for me. So, I mean, I don't know what you were wanting from me, but I don't think that I can give you what you want. Sorry, but I mean, I just don't think that I can. And then with all that, then you deal with the repercussions of the after, the pain, the sadness, feeling like, man, I guess people are right. I mean, I really don't know how to communicate. I think I make people more mad than like resolving things. Like, I don't understand what I did wrong. Like, you know what? Maybe I could call them and I could tell them like a little bit more stuff, because I don't think that I told them enough. How many of you feel that way? You're like, if I just explain, if I just tell them what I'm experiencing, like what's going on, they'll understand and they'll realize that this is who I am. Like, this is me. I'm not lying. I don't want anything from them. I just want to be able to resolve this with them. And that is a fair thing. That is a fair thing. But oftentimes now, a lot of people are like, well, what's in it for me? Friendship, resolution, no conflict. I don't do drama or conflict. So for those of you that are interested, I do have 2 podcasts. One is Recovering Perfectionist Mama, Grace in Progress. It is a psychology channel where I deal with all sorts of stuff like this. The second, like fake nice people, family roles, perfectionism, coping mechanisms, manipulation, all that, family estrangement. And it is on YouTube. And then the second one is Grace and Gavel, where truth meets compassion. I'm an almost 18-year criminal defense attorney, and I do legal analysis. I just did a recent one yesterday on Ted Bundy. Apparently, they were able to prove that he had murdered this girl 51 years ago. So if you're interested, feel free to check it out. It's also on YouTube. And I just want to say thank you to each and every one of you. I do go live every day on TikTok at noon. I go live on YouTube Live at 12:30, and I go live on Instagram at 1 p.m. My Instagram is BuffyStar_fashions. If you're interested in that, I just want to say thank you, and I appreciate each and every one of you. If you have requests, feel free to drop me a comment on YouTube, and it means a lot to me. And I hope you guys have a really good Friday, and I hope that you'll come back and see me again soon. Have a great day. Bye-bye.